Welcome back to the Beauty Inspires Beauty podcast. I'm here with some special friends that I met at one of my brunches that I hosted a few months ago when we were allowed to be open, and we are sure missing those days. That's what's brought us here today, is to talk about how this is affecting our industry right now. And if you've been with us for a little while, obviously we're going through this during COVID, so we're using our downtime to use our voices to talk about how this second time reclosure has affected us and what we kind of feel in regards to all of it. So I'm sure a lot of good stuff's going to come up. I know there's a lot of frustration. This is Daniel and Emily. They own a salon, a brand new salon called Brickandivysalon, which is not far from us, in Hillcrest location, right?
Yes.
So is that technically considered like a solo suite, like a studio suite?
Yeah, it's like within the idea of private suites.
Okay.
It's more of a localized kind of like smaller business than Sola. I believe they have like tons of locations. And to my knowledge, the Hive is just the Hive on 6th and University. So I think it's like 22 rooms.
I don't know how many rooms it is, but I know that Sola is structured more in a corporate kind of structure. And we wanted to have a little bit more accountability. First thing I did, because I was really curious with the reopening, what was going to be like a corporate policy if we were going to be shut down again, if they were going to continue to charge their tenants, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So when you have like a corporate structure, there's so much... there's so many like firewalls, so to speak, or separation of power between the people who own the company and the people who are renting, that I wanted like a more direct kind of accountability. So since Hive is privately owned, it's in an LLC, but it's privately owned by an owner, and I can have a dialogue face to face with him. There's a little bit more room for me as a business owner inside of the Hive to work with the Hive if we were going to have a shutdown again, as far as like monthly payments, because right, that's what every salon owner or booth renter is concerned about, is that you get shut down again and
you're forced to pay.
Exactly. So that was the reason I chose the Hive, was because it wasn't corporate.
That's huge. And that's something for anybody. We spoke with on the last episode of a salon owner, and she had an experience with the salon suite, and that was one of the things I think was a negative takeaway for her, was that she didn't have direct access to anybody. It wasn't like a we workspace. It's almost what this sounds like, a collective, which what a dream that someone will house something for you that you can independently grow in. And then once you outgrow that space, if ever, then you can go on and open a bigger salon, which is something Daniel and I talked about at the brunch, was a dream that he wanted to open a salon. So how long ago was that brunch? I think it was like January?
Yeah.
It was a January, right? It was the beginning of the year goal setting one, right? And so right now it is the end of July, which feels like fucking years ago.
We wrote that down in the brunch, and then boom, it happened.
Well, let's see my brunches work. Gee golly, no kidding.
There we go.
It really did kickstart it, for sure.
So that makes me so happy, and we're done. No, tell me a little bit more about, because Daniel and I had I could feel during the brunch, there was about 25 people at this brunch. I could feel a little bit of resistance at the brunch as to what goal setting, talking about your numbers and business was. And I love that you're saying that now, that it had a positive impact in you writing something down and then seeing it through. And now 6-7 months later, you have that and then some.
Yeah.
Yes. Did that happen then too?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually.
Did you have it? It was the White Claws. We were serving White Claws and donuts, I think.
It could have been that day.
It could have been.
Sexy cheese plates.
Oh, her name is a girl or boy?
Girl.
Girl.
Carly Sage.
Oh, maybe Justin. She had 3 names. I love that name.
Thank you.
Okay, so talk to me. You came from a salon. Did you guys work together before you opened this place together?
No, so we worked within 3 miles of each other. I was at the lab and he was at Tops in Mission Hills. So it was funny because when we met through friends, and I had never dated a hairstylist before. We were in the industry for the same amount of time. I just respected him so much when I saw the kind of work that he did, and I would go kind of help him sometimes organize his cabinet and stuff like that, you know,
that.
we started kind of teaming up and talking about the future and like our dream of opening our own space someday, and really kind of like seeing eye to eye on this like really beautiful level of like, yeah, we could totally like do this together.
I love that.
Yeah, it was a really good feeling.
Cool.
For sure.
So how long have you been in the industry for?
15 years.
15 years. Right. So you started when you were 7. Okay. She's
Yes.
so pretty. She's like a baby. I love it.
Thank you. No, I was 18. Well, I was like a month before I turned 18. They kind of like slid me in before I was actually legally supposed
To school?
Yeah, to school. And then I went to school on the East Coast, finished, had like a huge crazy battle with state board to go to California.
Mhm.
So I actually had to redo school. So I'm double
No.
educated. Yeah.
So that means double sanitation. She knows how to clean her implements.
so thorough.
For sure.
Such bullshit.
Yeah.
Okay. And you, what about you? What's your backstory with how you got into the
How
industry?
did I get into the industry? I was like a music major.
Okay.
So I was like really floundering. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I was performing at like the top of my class, but I was like really disillusioned, and all the people around me were going to become music educators, like high school teachers and college teachers, and I didn't really have a lot of interest. So I was really, really lost, and I was watching the documentary about Karl Lagerfeld, Fendi and
Yes.
Chanel designer. He didn't have an education, a formal education. He only had like about a 5th grade education.
Wow.
And he never really even sewed a dress. He was a designer, strictly designer. So he would, have a vision, and his whole worth of his whole life, his whole life's work is he made money in a lifestyle from just pure visions,
So explaining his vision to someone and someone else created it for him.
Correct. Like he would draw, what he wanted to see,
Wow.
and then he would have the house of Chanel make the dress, and then he would critique it, and that would how he would work. So I thought to myself, wow, it's like really fascinating that somebody's vision has value,
Yeah.
right? And then I went on a trip to Italy with my mom to like reconnect, and I got a haircut there, and I wanted kind of like a moosh, but with like a faux hawk, right? So like dog ears with like tight hair,
Very
and then
hipster.
like
Yes.
super hipster 2008, short,
So appropriate.
like short to long, all that kind of stuff. And the guy was just like, I have no idea what you're talking about, right? And so he had the old man who owned the salon, who was watching soccer in the back, come out, and the guy explained to him. I saw him. He was an Italian, which I knew a little bit of Italian. He was basically saying like, this is your guideline, move forward and pull these back, right? So he's creating length here.
Right.
Same thing here, like cut here, and he designed the whole entire haircut. And I thought to myself, this guy cuts hair, and he didn't even know how to do a haircut that I wanted. What if I could be like a Karl Lagerfeld of hair, where I could design haircuts, draw them on a piece of paper, and other people would perform them, and they would be like my signature haircut, So that's kind of how it
What
all
an amazing way to like look at our industry. I don't know that anybody who started out in beauty school, I mean, mine stemmed from the lack of having great hair and struggling my entire childhood to like
Same.
have good hair.
I have
And
psoriasis and
curly, you're
flakes,
curly
and
too, aren't you?
Yeah.
Wait,
that
little
is
bit, yeah,
part of
for
it.
sure.
So to
Definitely.
think about it from the outside perspective of how you could like put your vision into words to tell somebody else how to like, brilliant. Okay.
So that's kind of, that was, my dad was an artist. I was an artist, a musician, a painter, and into science and into systems and stuff. And that's where it hit. So I just kind of came back to San Diego and enrolled. And then
I love that.
I learned that in order to become the guy who watches soccer, you basically have to become an old man too, right?
Yeah.
So
You got to
everything-
wash the dishes first. Yeah.
Everything in between that was just the grind, But that was the initial, gestation period about becoming a hairstylist. And I
Okay.
had no idea what I was in store for.
Right.
For sure.
And so to add that was one of my questions that I always love to ask people is, what was your perception of our industry before you got into it? Because at that point, 2008, that was only 12, what are we?
It's a really good question.
That is a great question.
I can tell you my experiences. Like I liked looking cool. I
Yep.
was into rock and roll. I liked looking good, and I was going to Jet Reese to get my haircut.
Yeah.
And I was like, I realized now I was one of those really picky hairstyle or clients who was asking a hairstylist to do something they couldn't do. Because I had all this curly hair, right? And I wanted these dog ears that you had to, flat iron straight and stuff like that. So I realized I was asking a lot of these hairstylists. Now I see that. And I went to, what's his name? There was a guy who worked in Dulcinea, McFarland, and he cut my hair like amazing. So I had this like really cool, I thought hairdressers were cool. You know, they had tattoos and like, they were like, you know, whether it was a male, female, or in between, like, you know, non-binary, like there's this attractive quality, like being put together, being down to earth while also being classy. So I had like a really positive idea of what a hairstylist was, but I had no idea what it meant to be a hairstylist as far as like, you know, how to cut hair and what sanitation looked like and all that kind of stuff, professionalism. So I've been doing it for 15 years. So it's been a huge, long journey of becoming where I am now. And, you know, I did everything you can imagine. Like I got out of hair school. I worked for a place like on 69th Street where I was a commissioned 50-50 stylist with no clients, doing terrible haircuts.
That's how you started out? So straight out of school, straight with the pair of scissors, like, here you go, make it happen?
My mom's hairstylist gave me a job at his salon. His name was Jesse. And basically just baptism by fire, you know? And I remember my first client was a girl off MySpace who followed me on MySpace, who came in, and I didn't know who she was. Yeah. Young, attractive woman, wanted a bob. I was nervous because I was like 18 or 19, you know? And when you're a straight male hairstylist in a female dominated area and you don't even know yourself yet, being around other women, even though I was maintaining a professional mindset, just my nerves alone were enough to make me nervous, you know? So I did the worst haircut you could ever imagine. Like, you know, I didn't know how to do an asymmetrical bob.
No,
the hardest.
I think some still don't.
You know? And so like that was like, and she liked it, and I was like, I don't know why.
She must have liked you.
Know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it was a little bit of both, right? And so that was like my first haircut. And then I went to like another salon because I wanted more education, and it didn't have very good visibility. And then I got a job at Derringer, but I was demoted to basically an assistant where I was mostly shampooing and sweeping hair. He did have a really good education program, which taught me about like skull shape and how to build a shape off of skull shape.
So it's like on the job training basically you got then.
And it was like $7.25 an hour, you know what I mean? And I was broke. And then I got disillusioned and quit and worked at like a dessert shop and on my smoke breaks, which smoking is bad.
I smoked for 13 years. I
know. Don't smoke.
Don't smoke.
I like walked by a salon.
So you took a pause between doing hair.
Yeah.
So what do you think happened?
A couple pauses in my career.
Yeah, okay. I relate to that a lot because I took several pauses too. So it's interesting when like he would tell me about his journey and his experience and kind of his like trials and tribulations. I related so much to that because it was around the same time. And I feel like during that time in the industry, it was a totally different realm of kind of like cutthroat and I think very posh, you know. I grew up with a mom who went to Neiman Marcus for 13 years as a perfume specialist. So like that was my idea of the beauty industry, was like beautiful, glamazon, perfect, like in Dallas, Texas. You know what I mean? So that's like a different
the creme de la creme.
Yeah, but like back then in like the early
it was cutthroat.
Yeah, 2000s, like it was very like my idea. Like I used to go to a Veda salon that my mom went to, you know, and so they were just like all black.
The whole experience.
Yeah, like house techno in the background and like everybody's like perfect, and it was just like such an incredible experience, and it was all, you know, very fashion forward, and I just imagined how cool it would be to I obviously looked up to them, but you know, it was a really cool way to kind of like view it now. And I think people, it's interesting because I think depending on how you've experienced hairstylists, you can either look at them as these like beautiful creatures that are just like super brilliant and educated, or it's like this totally polar opposite, right? It's like the mom and pop shop. I went to school in Maryland, like St. Mary's County, Maryland. Don't even ask, like, I don't even know how I got there at 18 years old, but I was just like on the East Coast trying to do my thing, but like, you know, pink upholstery, like super old school, like elderly mother and her elderly
The roller
dog.
sets.
You know, and then I'm just like, oh my gosh, like this is not what I experienced as a kid. You know, this is like not why I want to get into it. And then flash forward to like teaching at Paul Mitchell and then like being in that kind of like echelon of people that I wanted to be with.
Yes.
It's really interesting how there's such a stark contrast.
Yes.
I think that people see hairstylists too.
Absolutely. Which takes you, Daniel, when you were talking earlier about clients and the first client with the bob and her liking her hair, I think often I'll say for myself, like early in my career, I wasn't a good hair cutter. Color, I was decent in the beginning, but cutting, not so much. And it was really about the experience that the client had with you. I knew they were coming back because they must like me because it wasn't the hair they were coming back for. I'll tell you that. So I think over the years, like teaching people those fundamental people skills, you can learn the technical skills of hairdressing, but I think being able to connect with your clients and make them feel like how your mom in that setup with the glam and all of that, like, this is a luxury that people pay for. I think it is something that we need, which is why we sometimes feel essential. Trigger word. But I feel like for the most, it's something that people treat themselves to, like the experience of an upscale cut and color with someone who is as educated as you guys, you know? And I think the stylists that choose to take that on as like an honorary position are the ones who become six-figure stylists and who go on to open their own places and have thriving careers. But like anything, however serious you take it, how much education and time that you put in is what you're gonna, you know, show up with at the end.
Yeah.
I love it. What great stories. Okay, so there's some things that have been happening in our world, and you guys have been like deep in there because you just opened your space, what, a month before that, or
It was
beginning
on
of
June
June.
5th was our first day.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we had to close then, according to Gavin, July 8th.
Okay, so you were open for a total of what?
It was a month.
A month.
Yeah.
So you got to enjoy your own new space for 4 weeks.
Yeah, we were prepping for a while, and then, you know, it's like tonight at midnight you can
there was
do
no
your
real
thing.
warning. I was thinking that he was going to maybe give us like a 2-week warning or a 10-day warning, but I think he said at 3:00 p.m. that at midnight we would be open. So he gave us like 8 hours to get ready. So I had to build out the salon, negotiate my contract, and start working within 5 days of him announcing it.
Yeah, and then he was doing everything with a really incredible contractor of his, and book all of our clients, just like hundreds of pages of people to get in touch with. And then I was doing a lot of the like licensing and paperwork on like the back end of it. So he's like nailing in stuff, and I'm like glued to the computer, and we're just like trying to be this like team getting it all together as quickly as possible.
It was a really good experience, you know, like to be able, and as you know now with your salon, like to be able to welcome somebody into your space that you created for them.
Yes.
Because that's kind of what I felt like. I felt like I was going to be like the Willy Wonka and make a space that was going to be for them. It wasn't really like for me. It was like everything was picked out for them. How would I think my clients would feel with this color scheme and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And the feedback that I've been getting from clients, like they'll just randomly say like, wow, like the energy in here is great, you know, or they'll say it's so cozy and comfortable. And I think, wow, like whatever, right back to the vision, whatever the vision was, it got communicated in a silent way.
Yes.
You know, and I think, touching back on like what you said about being young in the industry and how to become successful and stuff like that, I think that, you know, part of the glam and the our industry is a superficial industry, but it doesn't have to be. It can be very deep, you know, and it's up to the person, the stylist, to be both, because we are aesthetically treating people, but we're also can go deeper talking about all kinds of issues, right? We all know that, like,
the second you touch them, it just starts coming out.
Yeah. And so I think putting your clients in front of you, putting your needs and your story to the side and being like present for the client, whatever their needs are, you know, if they have a certain personality, you know, characteristics or quirks, if they have, you know, hair that they're not necessarily in love with, you know, kinky curly hair, frizzy hair, whatever, you know, this whole term of like dishwater blonde. We don't use that word at all. You know,
terminology has changed a lot.
It's our to elevate the industry, to elevate ourselves as hairstylists. It's important how we approach all that kind of stuff, you know.
Absolutely.
And for me, I've always been okay with being somebody who's a server. Like, I'm serving, you know. I've been okay with that role. I haven't had like all eyes on me. We all know, like, you know, the stylists who are very self-absorbed and need a lot of attention.
Sure. Well, you get those clients that come in and say, my stylist never listened to me.
Right.
Why did you leave? Well, they wouldn't do what I asked. Number one thing, right?
Or they vented too much of their own negative things.
Sure.
Right? Too much. I mean, we're human, so I think it's good to, especially with your close clients, like, oh, this is what I'm going through.
Of course.
Touch in, but then also like move on.
Right. Redirect back to them.
Back to being a hairstylist who's focused on the cut and the color, you know? And I think I can only speak for myself, but, you know, I have a very intense energy. And I think that I had to learn, you know, how to, I had to rely on my skills to be so flawless that my personality then could be found rather than using my personality, because my personality wasn't, I was young and naive and I had no idea what I was doing. I just didn't have the knowledge. I didn't know who I was. I didn't have a personality to offer, maybe, you know?
Yeah.
And I was into motorcycles, so sometimes I'd come in smelling like gasoline, you know what I mean? And like, I had a big old beard and like long hair, and I was rebellious, and it wasn't on brand.
Right.
You know, my brand wasn't on brand.
Well, your brand wasn't developed yet. And I think that's what kind of is tough when you get into even just adulthood in general. Like, you're meant to figure out what you're supposed to do at 18, 19. It's wild. Like, to look back, even in my early 20s, I'm like, what's really cool is being in the industry as long as I've seen people like you start kind of in that phase in life, like they're one type of way or one kind of person, and that's just who they are in that season, and to watch people grow into the creative that they can be. I've seen people too, like I have this good friend of mine, if you guys know who Ben Crace is, he's one of my dear friends, and I think Ben is one of my favorite stories to talk about, because watching Ben came in as a golf pro. So preppy Ben with his short haircut, assisting my friend at her beach salon, you know, that backstory to us working together at Hyde Edwards a few years later, still finding his voice, still finding what he, you know, connected with, and then watching him evolve into this master stylist who just took his career so seriously and went to London and did all those things. So, you know, now he's developed who he is and what he wants to represent in our industry, and he shows up big for other people. And now he's off, you know, he opened a studio, he's off painting and being his weird creative self, and it's awesome. But that took 15, 20 years, right? And I think I've always said I'm so grateful to be raised in this industry, because it allowed for us to grow in whatever way we wanted. And tomorrow you could change completely your brand. Yeah. You could paint the walls, change the color, change your, I mean, we get to show up every day however we want, right? Sure. And what's nice is every client is different. So you kind of like get to morph into whatever they need. And if you can do that, that defines, I think, whether you can be a successful stylist and keep, you know, kind of like a different kind of client base, because we want like attracts like, right? So you probably have clients that are very much like you and similar, but then you probably have clients that are totally different than you that come to you because they love your energy and they want to be around that. You might be the only person they can have those conversations with. So I've always just like really honored that we get to do that. Yeah. And that it just makes it even more special to me, but then being in the industry for so long, now having your own space, you know, charging your worth and showing up as that higher level that, you know, the vision that you guys both had in separate ways, but kind of together. You guys both kind of had the same thing. So
yeah, I think that we definitely like connected, and we both like acknowledged that we wanted the same things, or we fought over like what color the floor would be and stuff like that. So it was really fun to kind of get on that level of communication in a different way. And like, just touching on talking about new hairstylists in the industry, I think that that's what's so beautiful about our industry. But I also think that it always needs work, and we can always do better in terms of like cultivating our brand new hairstylists, because they can be so passionate, and being a teacher for only a short amount of time was so rewarding to me, because you could just like support them fully. And they're kind of just like going in a million directions trying to find what works for them. So what was really amazing to do was to just like uplift them and kind of direct them a little bit. And it feels kind of crazy when you're brand new and you don't know what to do and you just like show up in like scruffy high tops and you're like, I'm here, like, let's do this. And they're like, okay, let's like talk about what you're wearing, but also great job.
Yes.
And, like,
we can refine that. If this is what you want to go with, we can work with this. Like, that's the cool
Yeah.
thing. Everybody gets to be who they want to be. Now, side topic, because you just brought up school. I'm concerned for the people that are in school right now that may never get to touch hair before they graduate. Like, that was something I spoke to about on the last podcast too, is like, where do you see our industry going for these new kids that are coming out of school? Since you had experience being in there.
I can only speak to what I've heard from my friends who still teach at the Paul Mitchell School.
Yeah, what are they talking about?
Yeah, Tristan Elon and Ann Degersher and Clinton Norris, like, those are kind of like the people that I love and respect so much in that industry. And I kind of see somewhat vicariously like how challenging that is. You know, it's a lot of computer work. It's a lot of diagrams. It's a lot of ring light video stuff. And when I was a teacher a few years ago, I realized that so many extremely talented people fresh off the boat were just fully educated in tutorials. So that was what was really interesting, where I was like, okay, let's like kind of unlearn that for a second, because they were already like, this is everything I know and this has already worked for me on my mannequin head at home. And you're like, yes, that is one way to do it, but there's so many ways, and I want to just like give you all the options. So for them, they're not going to be able to touch anyone for quite some time, and that's what's devastating. And like for us, it's tough to start our salon again and then close back down. Well, they opened their school all over again and then closed back down. So my heart goes out to people who want this so badly and started and like got a little tiny taste of it, and then they have to like sit at home on their computers again.
Yeah.
So it's extremely challenging. And I feel like if you don't have that ability to connect with somebody one-on-one, and you can't feel them, and you can't like listen to them while looking at them, it's such a vital part of what we do, because it's like, it is surface, right? It is like people can see it as somewhat just that, but it's so much deeper if you allow it to be.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Like,
you touch
both,
lives.
You know what I mean? It's like every pool has a deep end and a shallow end, and you want to swim laps in it, you're going to go in both, you know. And I think that we're just people, and I'm shallow and superficial and deep. And I allow myself to be both. And I think also that touches is like allowing people to be themselves. That's like kind of our role, right? Is to show that it's okay to be yourself, no matter what, right? And inspire people to really be themselves and explore what that's all about, you know, in every shape and form and manner of what I'm saying, you know.
Totally.
Somebody sits in your chair and you're like, you are more badass than you look. Like, let's take you to that next level. Like, what's the craziest photo in your Pinterest? Like, show that to me.
Show me the one you didn't think you wanted to show me.
Like chisel them out of that, you know, rock, or shine their diamond, or like,
get them out of the box they've lived in for 20 years.
And you know what? That's been the coolest thing about the COVID lockdown. Well, coming out of it when we were allowed to, was that people were like, I'm working from home. And so I don't have the same like social restrictions. So now I want to do this. I want purple. I want this crazy cut. And I was like, oh my God, these people are now liberating themselves, because when we confronted such a scary pandemic, we had to like confront our own mortality and like how fearful we all were. And it may have transformed us to liberate ourselves more, because I can speak for myself. I was living in a gilded cage. You know, I was like afraid to open my own salon because I was afraid of failure. And when the failure came, there was nothing holding me back anymore. All my fears came true. So I was liberated, and I went for it, you know.
Absolutely.
Failing quickly is the best way to learn that lesson. And then you just go next. That didn't hurt that bad. It stung a little bit, but you know, I'm going to keep And like, same with me starting this podcast. Like, I had so many fears behind, like, you know, even just listening to my own fucking voice, and like, what nobody wants to hear what you have to say. And it, again, I took what advice you just gave, and it's not about me. It's about me. The selfish me is I get to have conversations with awesome people like you. That's like what I'm getting out of it. But also, I want to share what you guys like. I want to give everyone in our industry a voice to be able to speak about how they got to be where they are. So my girlfriend started this podcast, and what I found that I was most drawn to was the fact that she got to have amazing conversations with people that wouldn't otherwise, like, they wouldn't have met otherwise. They wouldn't have had the chance to like spend that hour together. And I was like, ugh, I'm at a place in my career where I love the behind the chair, but I love our people. And I think because I put myself in a situation where I don't work around a lot of other stylists, that kind of energy is what I miss. The conversations we used to have in the break room, like the ones who wanted to go and have drinks after work and talk about hair and do stuff. I always felt like I wasn't a good hairdresser because I didn't just want to talk about hair. So there was like some shame and guilt around me in my early years because my first mentor, all he did was eat, breathe, sleep, hair. And I was like, oh, I must not be meant for this career because I want to do other things. Like I loved art, I loved to travel, I loved, personal training and working out. I was like, I don't want to dedicate every minute of my day to this. This must not be it for me. So I, in my early years, had a constant search for like what else was going to be my thing. Because I went into beauty school thinking I'll do this until I figure out a real job.
Right.
But nothing that came along ever was enough for me to leave. So luckily I made good money from the beginning, that the money, I guess, in the beginning kept me there, but also the relationships with the stylists and like how different everybody can be in our industry. And I had a really good experience with like, I went to Robert Crummy straight away as an assistant. So I had that background where we had Michael Muldoon and DJ came in and was teaching. Wow. Like that was my first, experience to that kind of education. So I got really lucky being thrown in behind that signature and like being able to like help out and do all those things. I mean, I came this close, Ira, to getting the fang bang one day. And I was like, but I have curly hair. Please don't cut my hair like that. You don't understand. I can't be the weird one. But just getting to live out your creativeness through your hair. Like I've had every single color, every haircut you can think of, like tattoos, piercings, all the weird things. And it's like letting yourself be expressive like that. Like, look, Mom, I'm normal now. And I still got one piercing, but it's like you can do all that and live that life and still be what people consider like.
I think that's a good point. And like one of the questions that you sent over is like, what is a misconception that I think I have about from people on the outside when they see a hairdresser, right? It's like, there's like two things on my mind is like, one, somebody like me who has always, and probably all of us at one point, right? I know you were a punk rocker with Liberty Spikes, right? You know what I mean?
Yes. I gotta see that picture.
Simultaneously be free and also be in control of you and your life and your business and your money flow and everything like that.
So you're saying you can have spiked hair and still be normal and make good money?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you could. I mean,
you can have it all.
You can have it all.
This is like being provocative, right? Like rebellious. Like I can allowing myself to be all things, and I think we talked about this the other day, like with our daughter, right? It's like we want to have a daughter who can put on a gown, and who can also put on a leather jacket and some cowboy boots and roll around the dirt.
Yeah,
like you want to be free. And I think that when I was younger, I thought I was something and I stuck to that one thing and I didn't allow myself to dress like a businessman because I didn't want to be a square. Got it. Know what I mean? And now, like, I had to break myself like a horse and dress nicely, even though it was uncomfortable, and go to work and see and play around with my look and play with my aesthetic. And now at this point, it's like, I'll go and, ride motorcycles with my friends and be dressed in black and look all dirty. And then I'll take a shower and put on a button up and go to work and be elegant, And I think allowing yourself to not take yourself so seriously as far as your identity and to allow your identity to become fluid, like that's for stylists and also for their clients, like for everybody really. So I think that a lot of people, when they look at hairdressers, I think, and this goes back to what's going on now, like Gavin and Kevin.
Gab and Kev, as we like to call them over here.
Gavin and Kevin. I don't think you guys, or maybe some of the majority of the people in our country, like realize the amount of intellectualism behind what we're doing. If they were to like watch a DJ Muldoon cutting video and see how brilliant and intellectual he is, you know, that they would understand that there's design behind this.
Right.
There's design. It's structure, it's scientific, it's based off of Bauhaus, you know, that's how Vidal Sassoon came up with his structure. It's from German architecture, right? And it's also playful and fun and whimsical too. It's both.
Sure.
You know, so I think that they don't understand the amount of intellectualism and entrepreneurship behind the hairstyles. And I think that what you're doing is hopefully going to shine a light on that, because I know that you're very intelligent. I mean, to have your own, you know, salon and the breakfast brunch and everything takes a lot of effort to put into, to organize, you know. So I think that that's like where our industry is going. Is that people stop thinking that we're cutting hair, and they start understanding that we are hair designers. That we are like, hair is the medium that we are doing. But typically, a lot of us are also painters, or you know, you're an athletic person. You know, the rabbit hole goes deep. We're multifaceted.
Totally.
But hair is the medium that I practice while I'm inside my studio.
Sure.
And that's why I call it a studio. It's an art studio to me. It's not a salon to me. It's an art studio, and I'm working on hair.
It's a safe space too.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of times what happens with the experience that the client has is, like I was saying earlier, we might be their only interaction other than their family or their work, right? And especially in a time like right now, I feel like it is so needed. Like I've had clients, older clients who live alone, who haven't had the opportunity to see anybody else. They're not even seeing their family, but they'll come in for a haircut or color. That alone shows the trust that they have in us to keep them safe. Like,
absolutely.
That's wild to me. Like the stories I've heard, like I just think, oh, you need your hair done. No, it's so much deeper. They don't really need their hair done.
Yeah.
They just needed someone to touch them. They needed some affection or attention or a great conversation. You know, I had a new mom. She has a baby and her husband travels on ships. And so she has like a 3-year-old and the baby. She literally didn't stop talking for 3 hours while she was here. And she said several, how can you tell I haven't been around adults in a while? And I was like, it was all I could do to sit there because I love her to death, but I'm like, she needed this. Like, I might have just saved her from a mental break. Like, that's not my ego talking. Like, I've been a new mom. I know what the fuck she was going through. I was like, she needed to connect and like have some me time. No one has been touching her or paying attention to her, any of that.
I think that that's common right now. I feel like most of my clients that have come in have just at the end been like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I just talked the entire time. And I'm like, it's totally fine. Like, I am here for you. And you probably needed that.
Yeah.
I have a couple of really young moms who have come in and they're just like, I haven't seen anyone other than my immediate family and you. And I feel like that is such a huge responsibility for me, especially like being pregnant too and wanting to make sure that I'm as safe as possible and I'm taking care of people, not only like their physical presentation, but like their heart and soul, and like being present for them like a friend, and making them feel good on the inside and outside, but then also making sure that like they're safe and they're gonna leave exactly how they came, like health wise,
right? But
just like completely transformed and refreshed, and being like, oh my god, I needed that, and I am so much blonder now. I feel so much better, and like I have like that purple shag that I've been looking at all these months, you know, and like feeling so refreshed. But then it's just like so multifaceted. I think people don't really understand that when they're looking from the outside in. Like, what we do is essential, and I believe that every income is essential when you're supporting your family,
100%.
But I think that we really do transform people way more than just surface.
Well, the testament to how people came back in such a mad rush. I mean, there are people protesting to get fucking haircuts done. This is like, if that doesn't explain what this industry means to certain people, I don't know what will.
I think it's really important, like what you were talking about, to communicate in this forum what we as hairstylists, our responsibility, and how seriously we take it.
Right.
We take it. The reason that I moved my entire clientele and business and everything I knew into a private suite was 100% to protect Emily, to protect our baby, and to protect my clients.
Right.
I had complete control over the environment. You know, you get hand sanitizer when you walk in, you get your temperature taken. no one really touches anything except for the chair, which gets disinfected. All of our tools are in Barbicide, Clippercides.
Single use.
Like
Which already work.
We have Lysol, for everything else in between the chair, the neck thing, no matter what,
We're on alternating days,
yeah,
so
we don't
it's just
work at this
one
thing.
client.
They don't even work. You don't even work together?
No, because it's more risk, right?
Sure,
Technically, according to the CDC. So it's like, if you're 6 feet apart, then and you're in a salon big enough, but we are 6 feet 6 inches apart.
Yeah, we measured our stations.
But we still decided, because of the baby coming,
Sure.
to have an alternating schedule so that when the baby came online, we could do all that.
Manage it that way too.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we initially came on alternating so that there wouldn't be more than one person in the salon at any given point. So yeah, I have a lot of clients who have high risk who came in, who were very concerned, and after I explained to them what was going on, even the most conservative of them were like, I trust you 100%, and then I would contact them 10 to 14 days later to see if they had any symptoms, like follow-up, right?
Wow.
So, and of course, no.
Yeah.
And I think that's like really important to communicate, is like that there's no data that's showing anything between hairstyling. The CDC even put on their website that there is no link, So I think that it's just really important for people to understand that we're not like these
backyard hairstylists?
Yeah, or we're not doing it for selfish reasons.
We're not like intellectuals. Like we're just like, we're not like beauty operators. Like we're entrepreneurs. We're intelligent. We take safety really seriously. If I thought it was so risky, Emily wouldn't have gone back to work. Right. Like that level of risk. I think, we have to look at the data and all that kind of stuff. And even if the data shows that it's maybe more serious or less serious, we have to take it really seriously because it's our livelihood and it's the people that we care about. We ended up forming these bonds with our clients and we love them,
right.
what I mean? And so they're our family at that point and we have to protect them, so.
Yeah,
totally.
Even when people were protesting and saying that they needed haircuts, it was such an interesting contrast for me, like, processing everything and like, okay, this is scary and dangerous and people are suffering or people are passing away and my uncle was in the hospital on a ventilator. Like you have friends of friends or like this ripple effect of people that are affected and you're like, okay, this is real. And yes, like your hair is not a priority in this time. And I totally understand like how serious this is and how maybe trivial that seems. Like it could look to people like, oh, that's not a big deal. You know what I mean? And I understand that. But in terms of like what it feels like to feel taken care of and have that connection, I think is so important. But also understanding like when we were protesting the other day, like holding signs like no income, no diapers, no empty chairs means like
right.
I can't support my family. There was one girl that hung out of the car and booed at us as she was driving by. Mm-hmm. And I just thought to myself, like, I wonder if it seems superficial that we want to go back to work and do hair. And I don't think it's that way because we are so safe.
Well, right. I think that's a part of the problem is that, like, we have been... By now the public has a perception of us because we've been grouped with gyms and movie theaters, right? We're phase 3, so we're with gyms and group. Like, how does that shine on our level of professionalism? We have now, the public eye associates us with these two things now,
right?
And I think that's like the problem is that we should be treated independently as our own phase,
which we are as far as our board of barbering and cosmetology. They were supposed to house us as an individual business. We pay to be part of that. That's
right.
We almost have like a union fee by relicensing every year. And so what's crazy to me was, you want me to not do my job because it's not essential, but I'm more than welcome to get a restaurant job downstairs at the restaurant,
right?
Which I don't think you even need a food handler's card these days to be able to serve food. So something that someone takes and puts into their mouth, I can go do, but I can't do the business I spent 20 years growing.
Right.
That actually pays me more a day than what you guys are willing to give me a week.
It's really bad organization and it's really incompetency because like these are supposed to be our leaders and they're supposed to be intellectual, and yet here I am, a hairstylist, and I could formulate a better plan, Between phase 3 and phase 4 too, like they didn't wait long enough. to see what did phase 3 contribute, right?
I agree.
So there's a 10 to 14 day gestation period for the virus.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they should have had us work for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, right? And then another 10 to 14 days, so let's say 28 days. If they would have waited 28 days between phase 3 and phase 4, they would have had at least a litmus test to see what phase 3 contributed. But they didn't wait that long. They waited 1 week. So they don't even know what phase 3 contributed. But then they shut us down without even knowing what we contributed. So that's a big problem that I have with the governor's plan and the mayor's plan, and is that they didn't do it scientifically,
right,
or organized. And
the dimmer switch is broken.
You know, and also
Yes.
like a gym, it's people working out and sweating and touching everything.
And it's not one person and one trainer. That's,
Right.
I mean, some private gyms are like that,
Right.
but for the mass big gyms, no, it's not.
No.
And I love the gym. I wanted nothing more than the gym to be open because that is my mental sanity. But the comprehension that the gym got to be open before we got to be open made absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
So,
And then when they shut us back down, they went phase 4, and then 2 days later, phase 3. So they never even got to see, did the numbers drop from when they shut down phase 4 before they closed phase 3? They have no idea what numbers are coming from what area.
right.
And on top of that, we had, barbicide certifications. We had
Barbicide.
COVID-19 certifications that you could go online and take and feel like you knew everything and you were tip top. We like put it in a folder and like laminated it, and we like put it in our shop, and we're like, okay, we can't do anything else to be more safe.
No.
I mean, at this point, we're basically like nurses on the same level of PPE and prep. I've had nurses come in and tell me that.
Protective equipment, yeah.
I've had nurses that are like, oh yeah, you basically perform the same amount of sanitation as we do now.
And that's such an amazing validation from somebody on the front lines right now that experiences that. They're like, if you have a nurse validating you in your space,
I
that
have
you've
several
worked
of them.
so hard creating with like love and intention and intelligence, and it's hard to just be denied that.
I think it's disheartening right now. I think we're down to be treated fairly, and nobody wants to be treated unfairly. That's just like, I feel like the running underlying theme of this last like couple of months is just a bunch of unfair, wild, crazy, uncertain stuff. So let's spin this a little bit and be on the more positive side, because I always like to end with like some good takeaways, because we could downward spiral and talk some gnarly shit right now, but that doesn't get us anywhere. We can play the victim, we can do all those things. What good has come out of quarantine time? Like what have you guys taken advantage of as a couple, as a business? Like, I feel like it forced you to open this place. You took the steps that had been holding you back from fear for not doing it. Because you probably had a cush little setup where you guys didn't have to worry about shit. You just showed up, worked. Because I remember that life.
Yeah.
I remember that life. When someone did take the trash out, you're like,
yep.
I'm sure it'll be done when I get back tomorrow. Those towels will be folded. Someone will refill the shampoo. Toilet paper will just magically appear. Like that. All the things.
Yeah.
So what good stuff have you guys like?
I mean, that was definitely how it was at I could say probably at both of our salons.
Yeah.
I'm the kind of person that I am folding towels.
Oh, hell yeah.
I am putting the toilet paper in, and because when I work somewhere, I want it to feel like my own.
Well, we know your backstory, and your mom with that like the glam life.
Yeah,
it's not glam to not go back in there and not have toilet paper and towels. Like,
yeah,
not about that life.
Humble yourself for sure, and so yeah, I think what's different now, or like what we learned during quarantine, I think like pushing ourselves out of our comfort zones. I mean, being forced to just be ripped out of our comfort zones. It was like I feel like we processed it differently. I feel like I went really internal. I was like, meditating, doing yoga, reading a lot, journaling, like inward, like right into like the tiniest little core of who I was, like trying to work it out from the inside out. And it was rough, but I think that pushing ourselves out of that cushiness and into our dreams was so wildly scary, but like, it was the best decision. So it's like you break away and all this like extra stuff starts like kind of crumbling away, right? You're like, this doesn't matter, this doesn't matter, this doesn't matter, right?
Yes.
And then you're like, what really matters the most? Like, everything that I really want, you know, like my dreams, like my wildest dreams, like it doesn't matter like what anybody else says. If something were to happen to me, like what would I be the most proud of, you know?
I like getting all emotional. I love that. And I think and that's what's so great about this. I feel like, you know, the woo-woo side of me is like, you have to sometimes be pushed to certain things. Like the universe is doing this insane, gnarly cleanse, and people are having moments like this that they wouldn't otherwise let themselves have. We stay on that busy of like, what else can I be doing? What level of success can I reach next? Like the go, do. It's just like what we're conditioned to believe. And, you know, you push through that by opening the business you've wanted to do. You guys created something together that you now have a legacy you started for your little human, Harley. So what else? Are you guys taking up hobbies? Are you still riding your motorcycle? What's like getting you excited right now?
I mean, for me, like last year was the hardest I ever worked in my life. You know, like I tripled my income. And
Tripled?
I tripled it, yeah.
Wow.
I tripled.
Explain.
From
Back
2018 to 2019, my tax returns, I tripled my income.
Okay. Did you do that how? Doubling your client load, or did you raise your prices? Explain that to people who are like, how?
Basically,
So
well, I was really lucky because like I joined a new salon and then I had somebody left and moved and gave me a couple clients, you know, and then somebody else moved and gave me a couple clients, and then it was just on, and I was passing out cards, you know. All my clients are word of mouth. I don't have a strong internet presence for one reason or the other, but it's all word of mouth.
He already knows how I feel about that's fine.
Yeah, I've been, you know, I'm naughty, but I'm old school too, and I'm going to be working on that. I think having Brick and Ivy as a face,
as a house,
is better for me because it can separate it from me and my life. You know, I think that's where I'm happy, is having a separation between my private life and my public life. But yeah, it was mostly, you know, it was a lot of double booking. It was sometimes triple booking. It was trying to get families to come in, you know, have the mom bring the daughter and the niece or the,
so you could roll it all
the
together,
sister or the sister-in-law.
Just party.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like,
I love it.
Which is hard to do now with COVID, but
right.
That's how I did it, you know. But I'm going to tell you the truth. Is like I was one of those people who was not successful. I was not successful for 13 years, and so I wanted to feel successful so badly that I pushed myself to the brink. And Emily knows that sometimes, like, I would come home after a 12-hour day of working at the salon, and we'd be having like a dinner party, and my friend would be like, "Hey, how are you?" And I would say, "I don't want to talk to you right now."
Yeah.
And
I'm resonating with you so hard right now.
What? Like, you're upset with me.
You're like, I cannot speak any more words today. I'm done speaking to people.
And then I'm like, okay, have you had water? Have you had food?
Checklist, right?
Okay, and then you're just like resuscitating.
And then I'd have to say, like, let me finish my gin tea or my ginger tea, and get halfway through my appetizer, and then I'll probably start talking at that point. But I'm done, you know.
Yeah.
So the COVID thing really,
it forced you to slow down.
It forced me to slow down, and now it's like I kind of did it. Like, I was like, okay, that's my biggest number.
Yeah.
Like, I hit that number, whatever. And now I'm like, I'm okay with taking the foot off the gas. And I think the work-live balance is coming more into play for me. So it's like, now I'm working 3 days and then 4 days. And then, you know, when I am at the salon, when we are allowed to work, that's what my schedule is now. 3 days and 4 days and 3 days and 4 days, and not taking more than 5 clients, and on average taking 3 clients a day.
Wow.
So I found out how hard I could ball out, you know, how many fancy dinners I could take her to and how much I could make, and it didn't really change my life 100%.
You weren't happier?
Okay, I was happy to eat really nice food
Sure.
and go buy a nice shirt and stuff like that, but was I happier? I don't know. The satisfaction of knowing that I was wanted was what I needed. I needed validation, you know. I needed validation to feel like I was a professional.
Yeah.
And I finally got that validation, like, you are respected, you are a professional. I became an educator, became a master certification colorist. So like I started getting all these like accolades and kind of recognition, and that to me was more for my soul than the dollar.